With the Montreal Canadiens forwards not getting off to the start that the team has wanted, one reporter suggests an insane trade that involves sending out Brendan Gallagher for a $10+ million player. We got to dive into that. Plus, Jesse Joshua Roy is off to an insane start in the AHL, including a recent hat trick, putting him up now above a 50-goal pace, and a lot of people are calling for his call-up. And finally, we have to talk about some advanced analytics that show that some Habs are higher up than you may think. So stick around for all that on this episode of Habs Digest. But before we get into that, just want to thank you guys, first of all, for all the crazy support you've shown this season. But we got a big goal. We want to hit 16,000 subscribers by the end of November. 27 days to get about 625 subscribers. I think we can do it. And if you want to help us, you can click the button down below if you're enjoying this kind of daily Habs content. We got it all season long. And hey, it's completely free. Jesse, let's get into the video. And I want to start with some advanced analytics. And we got to start with Cole. Now this comes from Jay Fresh, as a lot of these advanced stats do, but Cole Caufield leads the entire NHL in goals above expected, as in their model expected him to score 6 fewer goals than he actually scored. Some people are taking this as a negative, saying, hey, Caufield's due for some regression, which, I mean, look, his shooting percentage is not going to stay at, 25-30% all year, but what this tells me is that Caufield's scoring goals that not everyone in the NHL can score, like that goal against Ottawa. And at the same time, Jesse, there haven't been many times where I've watched him score a goal and think, oh yeah, he got lucky. I think this is just him showing that he is much better than the average player at scoring difficult goals.
And I'm not surprised to see him at the top of this list for that reason. But that's kind of part of his wheelhouse, is to have those snipes from the side of the net. Like, he knows that he can score those goals. That's why he's taking these shots, still being tremendously efficient. And we see all the best goal scorers in the NHL right now are part of this list. Sam Reinhart, Nico Hischier, who along with Cole Caufield are all at 10 goals so far in the season. All you see them very prominently on this list here. We know that, like, for Cole Caufield, I know I've been asked this, like, on the pod, like, can he hit 50 goals this year, Josh? And, like, I'm starting to get to the opinion, like, if he can stay healthy, if Cole Caufield can stay healthy, he can hit 50 goals. Like, the way that he's just kind of continuing on that pace, that's going to be the one thing, though, Josh, because we've seen him, right, where, like, all the signs are there. Like, he's pacing to definitely hit that goal, but then an injury happens. So this is the one thing. Can you kind of slay that injury dragon this year? Stay healthy, because we know he's going to get the goals as a result. So you have to feel like this has to be a big part of Cole Caufield's preparation this year to stay healthy, because we know this young Habs team surely needs him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we need his goal scoring. We'll see what Patrick Laine gives when he gets back, but right now, Caufield is showing that he is one of the best goal scorers in the league. So take this as a positive, take it as a negative, whatever you want, but you got to admit, it is pretty impressive. But we got one more table before we move on to the next topics, and this is starting goalie, goals saved above expected. Now, this is the rate stat of per 60 minutes, because, if you go by the totals, Monty and Primeau have split the time in net, so neither of them show up on the top of the totals list. But Samuel Montembeault, top 10 in the NHL in goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. Has he had a couple of really rough starts? Absolutely. But honestly, Jesse, that I think makes it even more impressive that despite his couple of rough starts, he has still managed to sneak here into the top 10 above a guy like Filip Gustavsson and Connor Hellebuyck, two guys who were the best goalies in the NHL to start this season for sure. This to me is also beyond impressive. Like, I feel like he had that insane start. We were super high on him. Then he had a couple bad starts, and now we're like, I don't know what to do with the goalies. But since then, he's been just solidly good, like so quietly good almost. And to sneak into the top 10 is still impressive no matter what. And it seems like he's always making his way into these advanced goalie stats.
And we saw this exactly this last year at the same time, which is a little bit worrying in retrospect, Josh, because we saw those numbers tended to kind of even out to the mean over the course of the season. For a team that's letting in a lot of goals, this is obviously nice for Monty in a lot of ways, not a great sign for the rest of the team. That being said, last night, playing a little bit more of a defensive game, if the Habs are able to do that, that will really help Monty's case in this regard quite a bit. And I'm really okay with the Habs playing a little bit more of a defensive game. I wonder, Josh, how you kind of feel about that, and our viewers as well. Like, we know Kent Hughes kind of came in under his regime saying to play a little bit more of an offensive brand of hockey. But I know just from what the stats are telling us right now, the Habs need to shore up things defensively. I think that's what went into a lot of our game plan even last night. Hudson wasn't kind of taking as many chances, but I'm okay with a little bit more of those low event kind of type games where for sure you're getting a little bit less chances for, but you're preventing lots against, which has been the Achilles heel for this team kind of so far this season. We know the Pens aren't at the pinnacle of performance so far this season, but I think just overall looking to play a little bit more of a defensive game going forward is going to help Monty tremendously in this regard and help him not kind of have to be that savior for this team.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point. And I do think you need some personnel to do that. I think they have some forwards to do it. I don't know if they have the defense to do it right now, but all in all, it's not that crazy to say because, the Habs playing fast right now, they're allowing a lot of opportunities, a lot of break opportunities, a lot of slot opportunities for the other team. So if they can shore it up a little bit defensively, it might not be that bad of an idea. Let us know what you guys think down below. Should we help Monty with a more defensive game or keep playing our style and see if that works out long term? But we're going to move on, Jesse, to some Joshua Roy talk because a lot of people have been saying that he should be called up. And a recent article today by Marc Dumont kind of highlighted this. Joshua Roy is making a case for promotion. Now, we talked about this yesterday in the post game, but he had a hat trick on Saturday. His season totals are now up to 7 goals, 3 assists in just 9 games. His 70-game pace, which is the length of an AHL season, 56 goals, 24 assists for 80 points. That's his 70-game pace right now. He's tied for second in league goal scoring, though he's played fewer games than most players in the top 50. Simply put, he's providing the type of offense you'd expect for a player that's already proven he can make a positive impact in the A and the NHL. And if you look, he's top 5 in the league in total points. He's tied for second in scoring with 7 goals, the leader having 9, as you can see here. But I'm actually going to make that bigger. But Jesse, Joshua Roy, I know we talked about this a bit. I don't know who the guy is that you would want to send down. We talked a bit about Heineman being the guy because he's still waiver exempt. Do you maybe send down a guy like Struble and run with 6 defensemen and just make room for one and scratch another forward? I don't know, but at some point, Jesse, you look at a team that is really stagnating offensively. The lines aren't working the way you want them to, and you look at a guy that's producing offensively in the AHL. At what point do you say, you know what, this is a change that we need to make?
Well, right now, Heineman's still playing well, so that's what's really going into his favor, and really keeping him in the NHL right now. But if Heineman's game, as I mentioned last night in the post-game recap, is like, if his game kind of goes down a little bit and Joshua keeps performing at this level, absolutely that's going to happen because we see, 7 of his 10 points, so far have been goals so far this season. That's a little bit of a niche, like so far for this Habs teams. Like, we got guys like Slaf, we got Suzuki, we got those playmakers, right? We got a Dach, but like having a little bit more of those goal scorers. Again, second in the AHL, but playing a lot less games than much of his competition is absolutely unreal. Allowing the Laval Rocket to get off to their best start in franchise history, you have to feel like if he obviously continues this, it's just a matter of time before he got called up. And Josh, like in my opinion, like when we were doing our projections for like who we thought, should be in the Habs lineup for opening night. Like I had Joshua Roy personally, like in my top 6. Like I didn't think his preseason was that bad. Like if you're getting Josh Anderson, like setting up him for goals and assists like he was doing in the preseason, you're doing what few other players in the NHL have been able to do, and that's get Josh Anderson going. For me, that's saying something, right? So you have to feel like he will get his opportunity at the right time, but this is obviously still dependent on the play of Heineman.
Yeah, 100%. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But right now, Joshua Roy is playing very, very well. And I want to know your guys' thoughts. Who would he replace if he were to get called up? Let us know down below. But now we got to get into the final piece here, Jesse. And this is one of the more insane things I've seen. Like, there have been a lot of talks of trades right now, right? We've heard Kent Hughes is in the market for a forward with some edge. It's not the trade we'll be discussing here today. We've heard he's maybe in the market for a top 4 right-hand defenseman. Also not what we're discussing. We're discussing what Jean-Charles Lajoie had to say a few days ago, talking about the Montreal Canadiens. And, well, his ideas have been interesting. So let's just get into this. He said, why not take advantage of the situation to try and get Jonathan Huberdeau? We've talked about this before. I think a lot of you guys are already leaving mean comments. Honestly, fair play. That's fine. But he said, I know Jonathan Huberdeau makes $10.5 million this season. I know he'll keep making that for the next 7 seasons until he's 38 before outright. And then he went on to say, before outright rejecting both options, talking about Zegras as well, look at me in the eye and try to convince me that healthy Canadiens top 6, including Line A, couldn't also feature Zegras or Huberdeau. I don't think that's necessarily the problem here. I don't think it's saying that a guy like Huberdeau couldn't fit into a top 6. I think the problem is having a guy making $10.5 million who is on pace for another like sub-point per game season. Like, he's on pace for a solidly impactful 70-ish point season right now. His last 2 seasons have been 55 and 52, and he's making $10.5 million until he's 38 years old. To me, that's the problem. Having a guy like that making as much as he is what cap straps your team. Just like right now, a guy like Brendan Gallagher, who is involved in this trade, that's saying they could send out Brendan Gallagher for Jonathan Huberdeau, is what Jean-Charles Lajoie went on to suggest as well. Like, he's producing at like a 20-something goal pace right now, but the problem is he's underproducing versus his contract. It's the same thing for Huberdeau, but you're locked up longer term. The reason Calgary would do this is if they're not sold on Huberdeau, they get a much shorter deal in Gallagher, only a few seasons, so that, they can get some decent production and then he can walk, and they're not handicapped with Huberdeau's contract for long term, Jesse. But for me, I don't see any reason for Montreal to do this. I think, for me, having the flexibility of Gallagher's shorter term contract makes way, way, way more sense. And I'm just going to straight up say that I don't see any world where Montreal does this. I just can't see it. I can't see this being part of that long-term solution.
Huberdeau or Zegras are definitely not the answer for Montreal. We see he's getting some points, kind of 8 points in his 11 games. He's pulled this trick before of getting points, right? To kind of, no, but we don't mean to be specifically like mean with players. It's just, we're trying to get rid of bad contracts right now. And really, like, the worst thing that the Habs could do for the overall vision, again, Ken Hughes is always talking about the long term, is about taking these big deals when we're really looking, we're right there at the light at the end of the tunnel. And you have to feel like that would be a major pivoting point for this team of once they're able to even get out from a couple, and then more will kind of come in the very near future, which will actually be amazing. And like, Gallagher is one of those few vets that like we actually need, that's like playing relatively well, and that we need on this very young team as well, kind of going forward. So again, Ken Hughes knows exactly what this team needs, which again is very encouraging. And all this, like, again, having a little bit more of that edge there, and players playing a little bit of that harder game, I think is really the direction that the Habs want to go for. The reason why they haven't kind of pulled off a Zegras trade, which has definitely been on the table for them to do in the past. And I really salute Ken Hughes for kind of recognizing this. I think he'll be pretty quick to pass on any sort of deal like this.
Yeah, like, look, and I guess it kind of does make sense. Like, Calgary started off the season hot. They're slowing down a bit. Huberdeau slowed down after his very hot start. And, you have the opportunity, if you're Calgary, to potentially get off of a huge contract and land a guy who's on pace for 20-something goals this year, Jesse. But Brendan Gallagher has showed such impact this season. In my brain, he's still a Hab for life. Like, I don't know. I feel also icky trading him in any kind of situation. And especially for a guy like Huberdeau, who, like, at this point, could he bounce back? Yeah. But at this point, I think you're looking at a guy who's probably going to get between 60 and 75 points each of the next 3-4 years before slowing down even more. So, like, I don't know. I know this is crazy. I know you guys are probably already being like, what in the world are we talking about here? Why are we even discussing this? But I do want to hear your thoughts down below, because eventually a panic move like this doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, Jean-Charles. Like, there's no reason here. You're 12 games into a season. Gallagher's having his most productive goal scoring season in ages, and you're saying fire him into the sun and hard cap yourself for 8 years. I don't like that. But eventually a move for another forward is probably going to come. It happened with Laine. We'll look and see what happens in the future. Of course, getting Demidov coming over here is going to be a move in and of itself, but I want to hear from you guys, your thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Like we said, we're aiming for 16K by the end of November, and if we could do it, well, that would be just the best thing in the world, and you guys can really help us out with it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.